All right, so I wanted to talk briefly about the purpose of my training. Now, first of all, I think there's a lot of different goals for training. Everybody's an individual, so what I want to do very well may not be what you want to do, and we should both be perfectly okay with that. Some people train competitively. Some people lift for sports. Some people lift to lift, powerlifters, strongmen. Um, some people do it recreationally, maybe because it makes them feel good. Fair enough. Maybe you do it to be healthy. Maybe you do it because you want to improve the way you look. And the goal of my training is a little bit farther off than all of those things. I want to be prepared for anything that life throws at me. So I know that some people will take this as kind of a corny thing and say, well, it's the modern age. We don't need to be that prepared. We're not in a survivalist, nomadic society here. We don't need to go hunt our own food and gather our own fucking plants and berries. And we don't need to compete for space or for life. Right now, we are not in a survivalistic society. Therefore, we don't need to do these things. Now, I would argue against that. Not arguing against the fact that our society is what it is, but I think that people can get very complacent with themselves and with the world the way it is if they don't have a constant reminder of the way it could be. And the way that history repeats itself and the way that things get bad is that people forget about it. So I take my training very seriously. I can always do better, of course. There are times when I've slept in, missed a workout here, didn't push as hard as I could in a workout when I did get to the gym. And it's not just the gym, by the way, either, but I'll get around to that. I want to be physically prepared and mentally prepared for everything that life throws at me. That's the bottom line. So whether that means my job, if I'm working manual labor, I want to be able to do manual labor type work without having aches and pains and soreness all the time from the stuff that I'm doing, especially as I get older, 10, 20, 30 years down the line. I don't want my body to limit me. Everybody normalizes that so much, especially people who work manual labor their entire careers. They just normalize, oh, well, after a certain age, you just start getting back pain, your back flares up, this and that. Oh, you pull muscles, sometimes you'll injure yourself. No, no. I don't believe it. I think that yes, there is much more risk for injury in those types of trades, but can you prevent it? Absolutely, 100%. So that's one area that I want to be prepared for. Is anything physically that I'm doing for a job, which includes right now training my clients, right? I need to be an example for my clients. And hopefully for more than just the people that I train. Hopefully for you guys as well. I want to be an example of lots of things. I want to be an example of strength, kind of pure strength. I want to be an example of a well-rounded athletic type individual, right? I can do more than just one thing. For a long time, I was focused mainly on powerlifting, and I didn't really have my diet in check. My sleep was average at best. There was no mental training. It was just me getting stronger. And I accepted it because I was getting stronger. And who wouldn't? The problem was I took it too far and I allowed myself to get out of control with my weight. I got well up over 200 pounds, and at my height, at my strength level, it just wasn't worth it. So that's why I dropped down in the last 6 months, a little more than that. I went from about 210, 212 to about 196 to 198 now is where I tend to land. And I still intend to cut a little bit further down from that, but getting away from the subject here. So the purpose of my training is to be physically prepared for anything that life throws at me. And I'll keep repeating that because I need to say it to myself too. I want you guys to know that any videos, talks that I do like this are also for myself. I find that when I teach people, when I train clients, or when I talk to people about fitness in general, whatever you want to call it, it's really just a lot of me giving myself advice. And you'll find that if you go into any type of teaching career in anything, a lot of it is you talking to yourself. So here we are. That's my goal for training. Now, I got things mixed up for a while. I was focusing on the wrong things. I was focusing too much, and hear me out on this. I was focusing too much on my sleep, telling myself, no, I have to get 7, 8 hours, even just 6, right? Just to be able to work out. I need to prioritize sleep. Or I need to prioritize this other thing, right? I'll get a workout in later. It's okay, because the goal of my workout is just to get stronger, just to maintain strength as I cut more body weight. But that's not my goal. My goal is to be prepared for anything. So I want to make a disclaimer here. By no means would I or am I advocating that people get less sleep on purpose. I want to make that clear because I think a lot of people hear what I'm saying and they'll twist it in their heads and say, well, he's saying it's okay to just stay up all hours in the night and then wake up 2-3 hours later and go work out. You'll be fine. I think there is something to being younger in general, that yes, maybe you can get away with it more. Your body is not as beat up and worn, but that will not last long. It hasn't lasted for me. There's not been a time that I got less than 5.5 to 6 hours that I felt okay, perfect, and ready to go when I got out of bed. Not for a very long time. But right now, I'm on approximately 2 hours of sleep. And yes, I have coffee in me. That does matter too. I'm sure I'll make another video talking about caffeine too. But right now, I had to get up and I had to drive myself 30 minutes to the place that I train out here in Crown Point. And it's beautiful. Nobody's here, by the way. Got the place to myself. But I had to keep reminding myself that this is not only my choice, it's my obligation. You have to think of things like that. You have to frame it in your mind as if it's a necessary thing, not just a desire, a want, not just something that you kind of will work on here and there. You have to think about it like this is life or death. And you have to put all the responsibility in your own hands. You control your own destiny here. So, day by day, hour by hour, I'm making decisions that contribute to what I want to be in the future. I want to get to the point that I have these main facets in my training. I want to have practical strength. I want to be able to lift things that are normal everyday objects, or maybe not so normal. I want to be able to lift fucking stones that I find in the fucking woods. I want to be able to put things over my head that are awkwardly shaped, etc. Those things are useful, especially if you work manual labor jobs. But they're useful in many other situations as well. I want to build raw strength. I do that using a barbell. That is the basis of everything. But in the same way, it's supplemental to the more practical training. How often in life are you going to get a situation thrown on you where you need to lift a perfectly balanced, perfectly manufactured steel bar? It doesn't happen. But that is the most efficient way to build raw strength, because you can use the most weight and have the highest intensity workouts with that. So I want practical strength, I want raw strength, along with being able to move my body around just by itself. I'm not talking insane movements. I'm not talking human flags and 20 muscle ups and all this. Although those things are cool to achieve, they are not necessary. I need basics. I need to be able to pull my body in different directions, push it in different directions, use my legs efficiently, right? Single leg movements, squats with body weight. You might even consider something like running or walking a body weight skill. In addition to that, we have our general physical preparedness, right? So this is the more practical side of traditional cardio, where you do things that you might encounter in normal life. Something like using the battle ropes, maybe doing box jumps, right, where you have to jump onto a ledge. Maybe taking a sledgehammer to a tire. Something like that. That's going to be a little bit more practical than walking on a treadmill. The other thing I have in mind is hypertrophy or muscle building, not only for injury prevention, but also just for me, right? Just for posterity. I want to build muscle, but along the way, it'll also help me prevent injury. You know, when I do those heavy lifts, if I'm doing Atlas stones and my biceps are weak, what are the chances that I'm going to tear a bicep when I go for a new max or a new record? Pretty high. So if I do bicep work as an accessory to that, the chances of me injuring my bicep are much, much lower. So there is usefulness to the classic gym bro exercises, don't get me wrong. The last thing and the last part of my training that I would consider myself definitely to be the worst at, and this is something I want to work on, is cardiorespiratory fitness and capacity. So this is the standard, traditional, steady state cardio. Not necessarily steady state, but that definitely has something to do with it. If you want to build your cardio capacity, you do steady state. You don't necessarily do high intensity interval training all the time. That will wear you out a little bit more quickly. So running, swimming, walking, even cycling, all these things are fairly practical to real life, and cardio fitness is certainly practical. So anyway, those are the facets of training that I want to focus on. I know it's a lot, but those are the things I believe that if I hit every single one of those, I will be prepared for any situation life throws at me. Coming back to that again. That's just how it works. There's not anything that I think I'm missing. Do stretching and flexibility work as well. That's a very important part of my training that I neglected for a very long time, and I've been doing for the last 4 to 5 months, and it's changed a lot of things. It's made them better. So I'd highly recommend you go back and listen to everything I just said, right? Write those goals down. If you want to train like me, this is what you do. You want to be prepared for anything. So the reason I'm training is not so that I can be as strong as possible. Now, I might throw you for a loop here, because you might be thinking right now, I thought that's exactly what he just said he was training for. You would be wrong. You would be not very wrong, but you would be a little bit wrong. I am training to be prepared. So in life, in the worst situation possible, what does that look like for you? Okay, maybe we are in a very modern world. Maybe we don't have to rely on our own survival skills to get by. Maybe we could just sit on the couch and order food through DoorDash all day and get your groceries delivered to you and get everything else delivered to you. You could just stay in the house all day, your entire life, and you would probably be all right. But what's the worst that could happen? Here's things that I'm thinking. I'm thinking pretty common things like power outages or natural disasters. Right? How prepared are you for that? I think everyone just kind of coasts through and they just hope those things don't happen to them, or maybe that they're in a different state when it does, right? If the power goes out in the middle of winter, which it has quite a few times, there's this whole thing that happened in Texas this year. Are you going to freeze to death because you're not used to cold temperatures? Or are you going to be ready for that? Are you going to say, no, I know what to do. I'm not going to be stupid about it. I'm going to conserve my energy and wear multiple layers of clothes, sure. But say the power's out for a few days like that and you don't have any heat. Well, if you're used to having a perfect environment, temperature-wise, in your house, how the hell do you think you're going to survive? You're certainly not going to be happy. You might survive, but you're going to be miserable. So you do cold exposure training. You get yourself used to these things. You train in shorts and a t-shirt, shorts and a tank top, shorts and no shirt in winter. You go outdoors and you do these things. When it's snowing, when it's icy, when it's sleeting, when it's below freezing, you train outside. Go to a park, do some pull-ups on a cold metal bar. Run a mile where you can barely breathe because it's so cold. You do these things to prepare yourself for that specific situation. Okay. But really, how common are power outages in the winter? I don't know. Probably not that common. So there are other examples of things that you want to be prepared for, but you can't specifically prepare for them. And it would be a pretty stupid training goal to say, well, why do you train? I train so that I can not freeze to death in power outages in the middle of winter. Wow. Well, good for you. Keep doing what you're doing, but it is one of the stupidest goals I've heard. I would agree with you. So here's the thing. We don't have to be specific. We can be very general here. If I hit all those different things that I was talking about, the practical strength, raw strength, right? The flexibility, everything, the cold exposure and the training for different environments, in different environments, I'm going to be prepared for any one of those things. So I had to take a step back and I had to say, what's my actual goal? Is it to get as much sleep as I can or as much quality sleep as I can so I can live healthy? Is it to be totally ripped and shredded and have six-pack abs for the rest of my life? Is it to get the highest one rep max possible in my weight and age category in powerlifting, and I want to be competitive? Or the fourth option here, which is what I want to do, is be prepared for the worst of the worst. That is what I want to be. I want to be ready for. Which means that even in less than optimal conditions or horrible conditions, I still need to go physically push myself. I cannot back down from a workout just because I got bad sleep. Maybe I got enough sleep, but it was bad. Maybe I got 6, 7, 8 hours, but I don't feel good when I wake up. Maybe, like today, I get 2 or 3 hours. It doesn't change the fact that I need to be able to push myself in that situation, even with me feeling very, very bad, which I did not feel great when I woke up. The caffeine helps. But at some point, I'm going to stray away from that too, intentionally. I need to get myself off anything that would help me that I wouldn't necessarily have all the time. If you are in a situation where you need to support your family, let's say, or you just need to support yourself, are you going to be able to have coffee with you all the time, or caffeine, or any type of stimulants? It's doubtful. It's very doubtful. Are you going to have 8 hours of sleep in a stressful situation like that? Also doubtful. Are you going to have your supplements? Are you going to have a perfect diet? Probably not. So, by strategically removing those things from my regimen, I can get to the point where I don't rely on any of them in order to physically push myself. And that is what I want to be able to do. I don't want to be reliant on anything just to be reliant. There's no point to that. I really don't think there is. Now, it'll be very, very hard to do what I'm talking about. I don't think a lot of people realize how addicted they are to caffeine and their supplements, their pre-workouts. I don't think people realize how much they need sleep. I realize how much I need it because I've pushed myself to the miserable edge of sleep deprivation, where you're falling asleep at work throughout your shift, or you fall asleep standing up. I've also done that a few times. Almost fall asleep driving. Very dangerous things. Yes, you need sleep in order to be healthy, but do you need sleep to perform vital tasks? Things that are essential to your survival, or things that are essential to the well-being of your family, your friends? You're not always going to have the perfect situation. So I'm going to wrap this up here, because as I'm talking, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do in my workout, and I need to get to it now. Can't talk all this shit and then not do it myself, right? But my point with this is that it's never going to be perfect. You can try to make it perfect, and that's something you might do if you're training competitively. The top powerlifters in the world, of course, they get the best and the most sleep they can. They are A+ on their diets 99% of the time. Their training is near perfect. They know their bodies. They know exactly what they need to do to get stronger. But they're training for a different goal than I am. So I realize that I was focusing on the wrong thing for a long time. Now I have it figured out. I wanted to convey this to you guys because I want you to think about your goals in training too. Really analyze what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you just want to train competitively or recreationally for good looks, for health, go for it. I am very supportive of anyone training for any good reason for any extended period of time. Good luck. I really mean that. But you'll find sooner or later that those goals may diminish. They may kind of move out of your line of sight due to different things. You may start a family. You may start a new job. You may have trouble in your relationship. You may have stress from your job. There are plenty of things that could derail those positive motivations. So what do you resort to then? Let's say last year, 2020, there were plenty of powerlifters that I knew that had their competitions canceled due to the shutdowns. So what do they do then? Well, smart ones found another goal for training, right? They still wanted to get as strong as possible. Or maybe they took that as time to focus more on their cardio, or focus a little more on their diet, or get their sleep because they weren't working at the time. The ones that didn't follow suit, they destroyed themselves mentally because they didn't have any type of motivation anymore. I can't train for a competition, I guess I won't train at all. That is a horrible mindset. And it's going to get you stuck 100% of the time. Now, the last facet of training that I did not mention specifically is mental training. That is probably the number one thing you need to be doing if you're training to be prepared, like I am. You cannot skip out on those workouts that just don't feel good for whatever reason. Can't just say, well, I'm not feeling it today. I'm only going to do a couple sets here, and then I'll just go home and take a nap. Or maybe I'm just going to eat fast food or eat like crap or not eat at all. Not focus on my recovery just because I had a bad workout. You have to be able to push through things when it's uncomfortable, specifically when it's uncomfortable. You can't just take advantage of the good days and then on the bad days, you just give up. Trust me. It doesn't work well when you do that. But everything I'm talking about here, the worst of the worst, I've been through. So in addition to all the different facets of strength training and body weight training and cardio and all the essentials, you need to train your mind. Now, part of that is pushing through bad workouts and bad days and doing things anyway. And the other part of it is your mental self-talk. This is something I've been doing a lot lately. It's okay to talk to yourself, as long as nobody else hears you. That's what I always say to myself when nobody else is around. But here I am talking to myself anyway. You need to get your mind right. You need to tell yourself what you want, and you need to tell yourself that you are the one who controls whether you get it or not. It's really that simple. If you do all of these things that I'm talking about, and this is a long video, not going to apologize because I need to let it all out here. If you touch on each of those facets of training and you combine it with solid mental training along the way, you will be prepared for anything that life throws at you. I guarantee it. And you will be better off than probably 99.9% of the Earth's population, because nobody wants to do this stuff. I am a trainer, and there are plenty of times I can remember in the almost 7 years that I've been lifting that I did not want to go work out, or that I did not want to be good on my diet or good on my sleep and these things, right? The priority here for me is training. I have to get through that no matter what, because it's not always going to be the perfect situation in life. That's the bottom line. So I got to get going here. I'm going to leave you guys with this. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And we'll talk more later. Train hard, everybody.